Thank you, everybody, for joining us back here at Nubeva's channel. We're sitting here once again with Randy, who is coming live from the other side of the world with us today. Randy, where are you and what's going on?
I'm in Taipei, Taiwan. I'm visiting my mom. Finally, I get to visit her after 3 years of quarantine. So
Wow.
it's pretty good, pretty exciting.
Good,
I
good.
still had the quarantine. It
Yeah.
was a 7-day quarantine instead of a 14 draconian quarantine. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, glad to hear. I mean, it's definitely hard getting back to normal. Glad to see people still being able to travel and kind of get around a little bit,
Yes.
Randy. So glad you finally
Right.
got that in. So things have been pretty busy for you guys lately, right? Tell me first and foremost about this OTCQB listing you guys finally got through.
Yeah, great topic. I think it's always very fascinating. When we first listed on the TSXV, I can't remember when this was. One day somebody came to me and said, "Hey, we got this symbol that trades in US dollars in the United States." And I had no idea how that came about. So I literally went to the TSX, I went to our lawyers, and every time somebody decided they sort of understood how that worked, they would get back to me and say, "I don't know how that symbol appeared in the United States." Okay, so that was very fascinating because as we started having that, we started having investors that would ask us about having a US dollar stock that was listed in the United States. And so there were certain investors that said, "Hey, that's a pink slip," and we didn't understand what that meant, right? So we were getting educated on that, and we had investors that would tell us, "Hey, I can invest some on the Canadian Stock Exchange, but if you're not on the U.S. listed in a certain way, we can't." And so that got us to start researching. Well, what does it take? Even though nobody really understood how we got listed in the first place in the United States, they started researching that, and we were recommended OTCQB, and that's what came about. That was actually a fairly longer process that the investors wanted us to be listed on the OTCQB so that certain size funds could actually then invest in it. So
Yeah.
that's where we're at. So we're quite happy. I think the process took much longer and more resources than we first ventured into it, which is what happens with a lot of different things. But I think now that we're listed there, I think that's a very positive thing, and I think investors saw that as a positive. So that's good.
Yeah, and you landed NBVAF too, which is wonderful, right in line with your guys' TSXV NBVA. So perfect.
Right. Yes. 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 So we're
Awesome.
quite happy about that. Yep.
Awesome, Randy. So tell me about the other things going on with the business. I heard something about executive stock options.
Yes. So the board granted us, and thank you for doing that. They were quite generous. Granted all the executives, Steve, Greg, and I, stock options, 1 million stock options for a market cap that is significantly higher than what we're currently at, and another 1 million options at an even higher number than that. And so the way we were thinking about this is we're all very positive about the business and about the company. And as the last few times we received stock options, whether it was employee stock options or executive stock options, we received a lot of feedback from a lot of shareholders. So we were giving stock options, especially to executives, the same way we would if we were a VC funded Silicon Valley company, which is typically a four-year vest, no cliff, which is time-based options, right? Not based on a strike price. And so what investors came back and they said, hey, with a kind of a limited amount on the option side, right? Which is what Silicon Valley is used to doing. What investors came to us and said was, it's much more well received if we receive a large chunk that has a vesting price that is significantly higher than the current price.
That makes sense.
Which in Silicon Valley, you kind of don't, you have kind of an assumption that the business will keep growing at a certain exponential. And so options are there to retain employees and executives. Right? So, but the way the TSX shareholders view it is, this is incentive. We're all on the same boat. Let's make sure that you get this to a certain market cap, and then you should then get a certain set of options or rewarded based on that performance. So they want to see performance-based options. And of course, the board was very happy to do that. I mean, that way we can actually then provide executives more options, which is really what everybody always wants. We want more options. Now, if the target is higher than what normally would be considered reasonable in Silicon Valley, I think in general, most people I know in Silicon Valley would be very open to that. And so that's what the board decided to do. Essentially 2 tranches, one at a market cap that is more than double what we're at right now, and another one that is, again, more than double that. So I think the shareholders were quite happy, and we obviously, the executives, were quite happy. So yeah, I think this was a win-win situation for everybody.
Yeah, perfect. Of course, everybody wants to know that the executive team is on board, and I feel like you did a great job of that so far. And again, we always keep things open. We like the feedback. We like being interactive with people who are shareholders. Really makes things a lot easier for everybody involved. So I guess, Randy, last but not least, I kind of want to know what we are seeing in the ransomware world right now. Has there been upticks lately?
Yeah, so certainly an uptick, and it's quite interesting because Nancy Pelosi is actually here in Taipei, and this is not something that I think that's been reported by other cybersecurity experts in the industry. Certainly, as she announced that she was coming, we saw a huge uptick. Right, we're talking about big uptick on ransomware, so that was very surprising. I think I mentioned this in a previous recording. I think right before Russia's invasion in Ukraine, we were seeing an uptick, and all of a sudden it kind of went down for a few days, completely down. And then after that, I'd say a few weeks after that, it just exploded, but exploded in a different way. I think what we saw was, and a lot of other sites have also analyzed this. I think you saw some major players and major ransomware gangs essentially split up into smaller ones, and so they became a little bit more sloppy than we were seeing before. So in the past, when we saw ransomware, you'd see somebody entire Active Directory get blasted, the entire authentication system. So in other words, the very thing that says I'm an employee of a company, the AD server, that is gone, right? So when ransomware goes in, it destroys all the backups, encrypts all your backups, and for good measure, they actually will encrypt the ransomware as a backup just to make sure everything is bad. And I just was like, whoa, let's hit them, and let's hit them again and hit them again. We're seeing less and less of that. We're beginning to see more of the backups might have been deleted, the AD might have been destroyed. We're beginning to see things like that. And then the ransom amounts used to be well within a certain region of how much cash that company has or how much revenue that company has, with a discount essentially marked into the price so that there's room for negotiation to make the company feel good about themselves and say, hey, I negotiated this down for a certain amount and certain amount. That kind of norm went away a little bit. It just feels like we're now seeing a lot of ransomware gangs just brand new. They're into it and they say, hey, let's ask for a $1 billion, kind of a thing. So wait, I don't have $1 billion. Oh, forget that, $1 million. Okay? So there's a little bit of a like, whoa, let's just settle down and let's get a norm of how it's supposed to happen. But the volume has shot up.
That's interesting.
Especially, so we're trying to understand how that's happening, and we're beginning to see it everywhere. So whereas it used to be that you see it hit more on the richer enterprises or the banks getting hit, now we're seeing schools getting hit. We're seeing healthcare hospitals getting. Basically, there's just kind of open season now, which is Asia's getting hit a lot. And so it's kind of unfortunate. There used to be sort of a rule, not of law, but rule of some sort. But now it's open season now. That's what
the whole honor among thieves thing is kind of going out the door right now.
Yeah, it's kind of that is out the door right now. Yes,
that's interesting.
Or maybe we haven't figured out what the new honor is. I guess. Yeah, that's another way to look at it.
That's a good point. It's always interesting to see these patterns change without understanding what the reasoning is behind it and trying to paint a picture. Is it related to worldwide events? Is that just a great time to try to take advantage of people? Is it fresh meat on the block who are doing things their own way? Are they getting antsy because they feel like ransomware's time is limited? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like so many different options.
Right. Exactly. But that's the trend that we're beginning to see.
Perfect. Well, Randy, thank you for coming on and giving the updates, and thank you everybody for watching. Randy, I hope you enjoy the rest of your time and safe travels to you.
Absolutely. Thank you.